What they're going to be for is free market choices, giving people more choices that would probably drive down costs and put them in more direct touch with their own health care. Right now, they're in touch with insurance companies, which don't do anything.
But you know what, Scott, there's a lot of things in Obamacare, there's a lot of things in the ACA that Americans like, whether they are Republicans or Democrats or anything in between. The idea that you can't get kicked out of health care because of a pre-existing condition, the idea that there's no caps, all of these things are things that we've all benefited from, particularly the neediest amongst us. Look, I think this issue is not going to go away. And we're going to be talking about this because we're going to hear horrible stories.
In today's video, Ana Navarro destroys Scott Jennings on NewsNight with Abby Phillip. This clash gets heated fast as Ana Navarro calls out Scott Jennings with hard facts about the Affordable Care Act, breaking down why Republican attacks keep failing and why Americans still rely on Obamacare's protections. And while Scott Jennings tries pushing the same old talking points, Ana Navarro fires back with the realities of rising uninsured rates, delayed medical care, and what's really at stake when politicians play games with healthcare. So let's dive in and watch how Ana Navarro shuts down Scott Jennings on NewsNight with Abby Phillip.
What is the plan that Republicans are putting forward? Because you do hear over and over and over again that Obamacare is terrible. You hear it every single time from Republicans. This is a mess. Why do subsidies need to exist? But I have yet to hear a robust plan from Republicans.
Well, generally, they want more free market choices. They want people to feel like that their insurance actually is usable. Right now, premiums are really high, deductibles are really high. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I know tons of people who have insurance that would tell you, it doesn't even feel like I have insurance at all. I pay. Look, I have a small business back in Kentucky. Every year I get a letter from the people that we get our insurance from. Your premiums that you pay for your employees are going up, 10, 15, 20%. I can tell you this, the insurance benefits never get better, and the employees that I have would tell you it doesn't ever feel like they're, any better off because of it. We pay more, but the health outcomes and the insurance benefits that they get aren't any better. In fact, sometimes they're worse. And so it just feels broken, and it feels like you don't really have any choices. To me,
but you don't have choices because Republicans have not shown a robust plan. I hear the diagnosis of the problems, but where is the legislation, the full legislation that you can say, hey, we're going to replace this. This is our plan. Obamacare is over here. We don't want this.
I'm not sure Republicans are going to be for a government-run or government-mandated system. What they're going to be for is free market choices, giving people more choices that would probably drive down costs and put them in more direct touch with their own health care. Right now, they're in touch with insurance companies, which don't do anything.
But you know what, Scott, there's a lot of things in Obamacare, there's a lot of things in the ACA that Americans like, whether they are Republicans or Democrats or anything in between. The idea that you can't get kicked out of health care because of a pre-existing condition, the idea that there's no caps, all of these things are things that we've all benefited from, particularly the neediest amongst us. Look, I think this issue is not going to go away. And we're going to be talking about this because we're going to hear horrible stories.
When you really step back and look at this exchange between Ana Navarro and Scott Jennings, it becomes clear why the conversation keeps circling back to the same core issue. Republicans criticize the Affordable Care Act nonstop, but after more than a decade, there's still no detailed replacement plan with real numbers, real coverage projections, or any concrete legislative text. And this isn't just a talking point, it's been confirmed multiple times. The Congressional Budget Office has repeatedly stated that repeal proposals presented in past years would have increased the uninsured population by tens of millions without a viable substitute in place. That's the gap Ana is pointing toward. And honestly, the idea that the free market alone will magically lower healthcare costs doesn't line up with what we've seen historically. Before the ACA, insurance markets were already heavily influenced by private companies, and costs rose faster than wages for nearly 2 decades. In fact, from 1999 to 2009, before Obamacare even existed, premiums shot up by over 130%. So the problem didn't suddenly appear because of the ACA, it was already baked into the system. Another point that strengthens Ana's side is how wildly popular ACA protections actually are. Polling from Kaiser Family Foundation shows that even Republican voters overwhelmingly support protections for pre-existing conditions, allowing dependents to stay on their parents' coverage longer and banning lifetime coverage caps. These aren't fringe provisions, they're the backbone of modern healthcare access. And when Scott talks about high premiums and deductibles, he's not wrong about the frustration, but that's exactly why a replacement plan needs to be detailed, costed out, and actually written down. Without that, free market choices is just a slogan, not a solution. Ana's push for accountability is grounded in observable reality. If you want to replace a system, you need an actual plan, not vibes.
People are not going to be able to afford their insurance. I don't think even with subsidies, they're going to be able to afford the premiums that are hiking up 100, 200, 300%.
Wasn't Obamacare supposed to fix that?
When people, no, well, not without the universal, I mean, there's
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah,
Affordable was the
listen,
first word.
The Republicans have been chipping away at the ACA, and I think this is going to be the death of the ACA, but it's also going to be the death of some Americans who don't go get screenings, who don't get diagnosed early enough in order to get treatment, who go in and instead of being stage 1 cancer are going to be stage 4 cancer. And we're going to hear horrible stories because Americans are going to choose to drop health insurance that they cannot afford. And we as a country have got to figure this issue out.
You asked Scott about, just real quick, you asked him about what the Republican plan is. And he couldn't answer. There's no plan.
I literally said
and the
free
thing
market,
about Donald
more
Trump
choices,
is he's
lower
not,
cost.
he's just,
That's a
the thing
concept.
about Donald
In touch
Trump
with
is he's not an
doctors, not
outsider
insurance
anymore.
companies.
He's
They're
been in
still
government a very
savings
long period
accounts.
of time. And then to your point about the SNAP's benefit, about Democrats being the party of humility, a government shutdown is an ugly business. Two wrongs don't make a right. Donald Trump was the one that refused that the rainy day fund that SNAP had
No, Democrats
be let
refused to
out.
open the government.
No, they refused.
They refused to
there was
open
a
the
rainy day
government.
fund in place for that very reason of a possible government shutdown. 2 courts ruled against it. He has to do it. He still may not comply. Who knows? So don't say that's a Republican talking
Democrats
point.
voted
But back
to
to the
keep the
healthcare.
government shut down.
Obamacare, there's issues with it, but if you break it, you bought it. We can fix it within the system, or we can do something else. Your point about making it privatized, there's a lot of private healthcare insurance out there. None of it is affordable.
But
And if you think of getting rid of an affordable
you've been
option,
in
would make
Congress
it
and you
more
have
so.
seen vote after vote after vote to repeal Obamacare. And the
About
question is to
75.
replace it with what?
Watching Ana Navarro and Dylan Douglas tag team Scott Jennings here, the bigger picture becomes impossible to ignore. The problems they're pointing out aren't theoretical. They're documented, measurable outcomes tied directly to policy choices. When Dylan talks about the consequences of dismantling the ACA, he's not exaggerating. The American Cancer Society has reported for years that uninsured patients are significantly more likely to be diagnosed at late stages, which drastically increases mortality rates. So when access becomes unaffordable, the fallout is literally life or death. And Anna's point about Republicans chipping away at the ACA is backed by hard data. The Congressional Budget Office found that repealing the individual mandate alone increased premiums by roughly 10% every single year afterward. That didn't happen because the ACA failed. It happened because key pieces were intentionally removed, making the system unstable. It's like slashing holes in a life raft and then complaining it doesn't float. What makes Dylan's argument even stronger is the reality around private insurance. People like to imagine private markets drive prices down, but in healthcare it's the opposite. From 2010-2020, private plans increased premiums almost twice as fast as inflation, while insurers reported record profits. That's not market competition, that's consolidation. 4 insurers now control over 75% of the marketplace in many states, meaning more choices often means the same companies offering the same overpriced plans. And Scott's suggestion of privatizing more of the system ignores what's already proven. Private coverage isn't getting cheaper, and removing the ACA's affordable options would simply push more Americans out of coverage entirely. That's why Ana and Dylan's urgency hits so hard, because we've already seen what happens when access shrinks. We don't need hypotheticals. We have the numbers.
Nothing, a concept.
Correct.
We're still hearing it. When 2 courts said to Trump, feed these children, he has appealed that.
Why can't those
Why
two
won't he
judges?
feed the children?
Why won't Democrats feed the children? Why don't we have? Hold on. Why don't we have two judges say to Democrats, "You must vote to open the government because kids are
Wait, but
hungry"?
here's the
What
thing.
Do two
judges?
unelected judges have that authority?
Just
I don't
answer
think
the
so.
question. You can
Why?
answer the question with your question all you want to, but the fact of the matter is,
An unelected judge probably does not have the authority to
believe-
tell the executive
Well, there
branch
are
what to
three
do.
different branches
Well,
of
they
government.
this
did.
is my
They
question.
can and they
Does
did.
it-
supposed to be
And
Do you believe a
snaps
judge?
The Supreme
work
Court.
without.
Do you believe as a member of Congress, a judge can compel the executive to spend money that you haven't appropriated?
yes, I do.
Oh.
Yes, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't want kings.
Nobody
Maybe we
wants
need
kings.
king for a day. What do we need? I mean,
Okay, but wait.
that is
Judge-
literally a king, spending money that is not
The
appropriated.
judge is not a king. The
No, you're
judge-
turning the president into one if he
don't
can
know.
spend without appropriation.
Well, now, if you got a rainy day fund, it was appropriated at
Correct.
one time. The fund didn't come out of the air. The money is sitting there. Now, they didn't appropriate it yesterday or the day before, but the money was appropriated last year sometime, and the rainy day fund was there for this purpose.
Who
And rather than
appropriated the,
use
who
it
appropriated the $40 billion for
two courts.
Argentina?
My view is, as a look, you guys have been railing against Trump being authoritarian, having too much power, too much executive power, and at the same time, Democrats have been arguing that he should go out and spend money that has not been appropriated
The
this
money
It
was
year
has been
appropriated.
by
appropriated.
Congress.
It's $3 billion that's in a rainy day fund.
Where did the rainy day fund come from?
Was it specifically for this purpose?
Yes, correct. It
I
was
don't know.
three. It was three. I know for a fact it was $3 billion that's appropriated through snaps, specifically for either disaster relief situations or government shutdown. Trump said he didn't want to spend the money. People are going hungry because of it.
Because
And we should
Democrats
be-
voted to keep the
but
government
we should
closed.
be clear that the shutdown that happened before this was the second longest. It was during the Trump administration, and guess what?
This-
SNAP was funded.
Correct.
So this one is different.
What James Clyburn is getting at here hits a much bigger truth about how federal safety net programs actually function, and the facts back him up. Rainy day funds like the one being argued over aren't abstract wish lists. They're literally pre-approved, congressionally appropriated dollars that exist solely to prevent Americans from going hungry during disasters or shutdowns. The SNAP Contingency Fund has been around for decades, and its entire purpose is to ensure kids and families don't get caught in political crossfire. It's not new, it's not controversial, it's federal law. And Clyburn's point becomes even stronger when you look at the data. SNAP has one of the lowest fraud rates of any federal program, under 1%, and every dollar spent on it generates about $1.50. $1.80 in economic activity. Even Republican-led states rely heavily on these programs during downturns, so refusing to release money that's already been set aside doesn't protect taxpayers. It actively hurts local economies and puts families at risk. Meanwhile, the conversation around executive power is missing a crucial distinction. Courts have long had the authority to ensure the executive branch carries out obligations tied to appropriated funds. It's why presidents can't just withhold congressionally allocated money. That's not monarchy, that's separation of powers. The GAO literally ruled in 2020 that Trump's withholding of Ukraine aid violated the Impoundment Control Act, which exists to stop exactly that kind of selective spending. And when Scott tries to blame Democrats for the shutdown, there's real history that contradicts him. During the 2018-2019 shutdown, the longest in US history, SNAP benefits were released because the administration followed long-standing guidelines. This time, refusing to do so isn't a legal requirement. It's a choice, which is exactly why Clyburn's argument lands so hard. This isn't about partisan talking points. It's about whether government chooses to use money already approved to keep Americans fed or chooses not to. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed. Think for yourself and check out Ground News in the description down below.